right, hey Michael, look who just showed up. Jim,
great.
one of our founders from the ASU entrepreneurial ecosystem, graduate of our first cohort of the Masters of Science in Innovation and Venture Development, seed funded by your buddy Tom Prescott. So you've met Tom, and you had a chance to also meet Michael at the same event. We had a showcase at the end of your program year in that master's degree, where you basically told the story of an area of your life that you were aware of. There was a friction point that you and I think it was your brother, your co-founder, saw. And as part of your experience in the master's program, you're like, hey, we can fix this. We can make this better. And we can do so by creating a new product, software. You're a developer, right? You know how to
Yeah, so I'm the UX designer, and then my brother's actually a full stack web engineer. And I mean, we weren't very good at it at the start, but as time goes on, you start to really perfect your trade, and it's been a really great ride so far.
Awesome.
Yeah, and you pitched us and swept us off our feet, man.
And it's crazy because that initial pitch, I was very focused on that user application for our, because what we're doing is we're developing like a flea market platform that really, it's for the consumer, it's for the vendor, it's for the manager, and it's this whole ecosystem of building up the flea market space. And when I went into the pitch competition, my emphasis was really on showing everyone the user app of the user portion of it. But what's funny is when I took that, when I won the funding and I went to my clients and I said, hey, like, we can build this out now. We have a great user, we had a user interface intern that came in and helped us build out our design. And they're like, that's awesome, but now I want you to focus on the booth rental aspect of it. And I was like, oh, I mean, we haven't really talked about doing that yet, and I thought we were going to focus on launching and getting our vendors on board so that they can showcase their products, and then we can start to build out. Because right now we're doing showrooming, and then we want to eventually do purchase and pickup, and then eventually, maybe way down the road, take it to an e-commerce play. But that's already a very saturated market, so that's a big debate between my brother and I. But they told us, you always got to listen to your customers. It's MSIVD. It's ingrained in my head where we did the 1,000 interviews of vendors, and they're the ones that developed the product. And then eventually, the managers were like, okay, well, now we want you to focus on us. How are you going to contribute to us? And so we were like, well, we want to do the booth rental space. And so they said, well, do that, and then let's launch with the entire platform. And so then we built out the booth rental platform. And I remember even mentioning it in my pitch competition. I had to go to Las Vegas for the National Flea Market Association conference, and that's where hundreds of markets come together to really see what's happening in the space. And that was our big debut. And I showed up, and I was as nervous as possible. It may have been possibly one of the worst presentations I've ever given in my life, but I was just shaking in my booth the whole time. I never really went up to anyone. I'm not very extroverted, and that's something I've really learned to change, is to be more extroverted. And to
because
really
you have to, right? If your business is going to be successful, you've got to force yourself into new situations that you can overcome, those anxieties and stuff,
Exactly. And I remember my father was texting me. He's like, hey, you need to go talk to these people. And I'm like, I don't really want to. And he's like, no, you have to go talk to them. So then I eventually mustered up the nerve and started, introducing myself and what we're doing. And that's when it started to take fire. Everyone was like, this is really great. Are you really going to be doing, you're going to be offering our vendors this, and you're going to be reducing our costs for the booth rental process, because we don't charge for that process. Everything's a pass-through cost to our vendors. And it essentially, that monthly charge that the vendor has pays for the entire platform. And they were like, this is amazing. Does this actually work, is the thing. So we're like, yeah, well, actually we have the Mesa Marketplace, and they've been really awesome with us, and they've built this platform with us. And right now, we had to delay our onboarding of vendors, but we want to put them on the consumer platform, and we want to, build out our booth rental side of the platform as well. And so when I was there, I had about 200 flea markets say, "This is awesome. We want to onboard onto this platform in the future." So in May, when you come to the next National Flea Market Association conference, which
We're
is
gonna go.
this May,
We'll get tickets.
which is this May, I hopefully, will begin my process of onboarding. But will begin my process of onboarding. That's right. Don't put that negative energy out there, right? And it's just been phenomenal because it started out as like, we're just going to focus on the user platform. And it is a great, people are asking about it all the time. We have vendors come up to us like, hey, like, why isn't this going yet and stuff? But it's like, we have to do one step at a time.
Yeah.
Like, I have to listen to the managers. I also have to listen to customers, and I also have to listen to vendors. And it's just a really hard ecosystem to like control. But I love every minute of it. Every Friday.
But you could never. So that's an important point. You can never go wrong by thinking about what do my potential customers, what do they want, what do they need, and getting input from them. So that's like entrepreneurs. My experience quite often get stuck at some point. Sometimes it's like trying to design their go-to-market strategy or a pitch deck for investors, and they get kind of hung up on like, okay, I've done all this great stuff, but now I'm not sure which way do I go? There's all these forks in the road, and I always say, if you're not sure, then like, what would your customers say? Focus on your customers. You can't go wrong thinking about that, and it kind of leads to another principle of when you get stuck like that. The most important thing to do is take a step in some direction, because as soon as you take a step in one direction, it opens up a whole new world of opportunities, and you can look around and say, wow, I didn't see that before. And if I wouldn't have taken that step, I wouldn't have seen that. So like for entrepreneurs, like don't get hung up when just take a step. You never know where it's going to lead you. So you're a prime example of that. So it's great.
Exactly. And even if you think, because the biggest thing that my brother always tells me, he goes, stop trying to build towards perfection. Just launch with the really, just launch and see what happens. And so we do, and we launch, and that's where we get our customer interaction. And they tell us this is where you need improvement. This is where, you need help. And so then to me, launching is like the best thing, because that's when you start to get your customer insights post customer interviews that you initially had. And it's just helped build and completely change the way that we've done our product.
Fantastic. Jim, back up for where we have some folks that have joined us, maybe watching online. Give us the simple explanation of the flea market. So you've got the hosts, basically the folks that own the property where the flea market is hosted. They manage how it's run. Then you've got the vendors who sell at the market, and then you've got ultimately the customers. So if you could just very briefly kind of describe that landscape. Maybe I just did.
Yeah, you pretty much hit the nail on the head.
Okay. Well, so tell us the name of the company, right? Your venture was seed funded by the Corey Law Group just recently. So tell us the name of the company, and we're going to get excited about going to Vegas in a few months to see the
flea market.
That's right. Yeah. So we're Weingo Works is our company name, and our product is actually Bilo. We're still struggling with names, but Bilo, buy local, and everyone in the spaces seem to appreciate it.
BUYLO.
Yes, buy local,
Awesome.
right? Bilo. And so our product is essentially, like you said, it's to deliver and support that whole ecosystem of the flea market. Mm-hmm. So it's not just for
modernizing it, I would assume.
Exactly. Yeah. So they were still using disk operating systems for their booth rental software. Like they were using DOS. Yeah. And I'm 24, and I was like, I don't even know what DOS is. And so my brother had to explain it to me, and I was like, that sounds awful. And he's like, it is. Yeah. And so I went to when I initially did my interviews, I was watching them do the booth rental process, observing, what should take 5 minutes, it took 45. And
wow.
I was stunned. And that's where this kind of like sprouted, okay, I need to improve this process. And then I walked around the market, and all these vendors were just telling me, like, we need more. Like, you see the Amazons taking over, you see Mercari, you see eBay, they are starting to become, billions and billions, and the direct selling market is just flatlining.
Right.
I think it's like the industry is for $43 billion. It's still a big industry, $43 billion. But what is going to take them out of like that mature phase and give them at least like a bump towards growth? And I mean, my brother and I really think like with this ecosystem that we're kind of building, we're going to try to spur that excitement back into the flea market space because it's not going anywhere.
Yeah. No. I mean, that's commerce from the dawn of time as
Yeah.
folks getting together at the market and exchanging values. So,
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool also what you said about like how you came up with your idea by seeing something in the marketplace that wasn't functioning properly that you could make better. And that's a big deal. I mean, so like for entrepreneurs, especially young first-time entrepreneurs, and there's a lot of entrepreneurs that want to start something and they've got a lot of ideas, but they're not quite sure. The best thing to do is look around the things that you're involved in and like find out where there's dysfunction or inefficiencies. And you can create a company around that. I remember a long time ago, probably 25 years ago, an entrepreneur that we were working with that his story was he was like a service tech guy that did cabling. He would get called out to corporations and fix their cabling or something. And he'd always listen to what they were saying. And their biggest problem, he discovered, was when something in the network went down, they never knew where the problem was. Mm. And so he just developed a thing to plug in that would like diagnose where the problem was. And it was all from just being up there hanging cabling, listening to what they're saying. He ended up creating a company, and it was wildly successful. So that's what I mean. It's like there's a lot of good lessons talking to entrepreneurs like you that have taken certain steps. You may not think about it because you're still in the battle and in the early stages. But even as you know, to the extent that you've achieved certain things, you've got a lot of wisdom that you can share with other entrepreneurs. So I think it's important for entrepreneurs to be collaborating and talking to each other at various levels, because you have a lot to offer, and you're not even wildly successful yet.
give them some time.
But there's little tidbits of things that are spot on there that people can pick up on. It's like, there you go, do that.
Yeah, no doubt. And to that point, Jim has graciously agreed to come in and pay it forward at this early stage. He's going to be sharing some of his battle scar, stories with the new cohort of the MSIVD program. So thanks for agreeing to do that. So let's wrap up today. If you could share with us and our audience, what was your reflection of being given the opportunity to win actual cash dropped into your business bank account from supporters like Michael and his firm? As part of the ASU academic community.
I mean, it was like the ember that sparked the fire. It's exactly what we needed, because I can't just constantly pay server fees. Was the biggest thing for us. I couldn't just pay $5,000 for a UI designer to come in and just take my platform to that professional level and elevate us to the extent that people are willing to pay for our services at that point. And it's, I can't be more grateful for what, you had done for us, and my brother thanks you every day for it. And, as we kind of build out our company, it's just, we hope to give back in the future to this, or in the future, just like you did for us. And it's just really awesome.
Great. Yeah, and we always like to hear stories where people like you have employed the money, and even if it's just incremental, some little thing that we were able to do that advanced you. That's what we like hearing, as opposed to going out and buying a bunch of beer after.
That never happens. That's illegal. One. Number two. No. Hey, thank you so much for your support of our students like Jim.
Absolutely.
And his co-founder, his brother. Totally legit story. Love everything. So, thanks to both of you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.